I'm sorry, it's a little late. It's 1:15 PM, but we are going to start the special preliminary budget meeting, July 8th, 2025 for the Walsh County Commission. We just had a special meeting prior to this and said the Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll just move on to Tanya. We have her here with the COLA market study figures.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
So I sent you all an overview, my truth left, I talked about my papers. So first I'll have a little brief conversation about the whole piece of it. We use the CPI index, the consumer price index, to guide us on that COLA piece of it, okay? The May number came out in June, and that was at 2.4. What that is it looks over the previous 12 months. So over the course of the, from May to May of 2024, it was 2.4. I used the Midwest figure, so it's as close as possible to our region as well. I looked back the previous couple of months and it was right in that same vicinity. I think it was 2.4 the month before, and I don't remember offhand now. There was in the first 4 or 5 months of the year, it went as low as 2 and as high as 2.7. So 2.4 was a pretty common theme in there. For that reason, I gave you COLA figures that included 2% and 2.5%, just to give you some options to look at. We also conducted our market study. You may recall that last year it was determined it would be best for us to split our complete staff roster into thirds.
Can I just have you hold up a minute? I need the hard copy. Do we have the hard copy in here? Of what you sent out?
No, I didn't print it.
What's on piece of there that would be emailed? I can't find that.
Yeah, it came on our gov email or NV gov email, and I don't have that set up on my iPad yet, so.
I should have sent it to you. I sent it to, a couple, like your other emails for a couple of you, but not all of you. I know for Denny.
Oh, okay, good. She didn't have a rebel, so she sent it the normal way.
I've been sending it 2 ways just to be safe.
Okay, that's fine. I'll share it, but Denny, do you need to share?
You find it, Denny?
You have it.
Print it quick.
There's a lot of numbers, so I need it in front of me.
There is,
Sorry.
honestly, I can even, if I need to be looking at it, Denny, if you wanna look at this one, then. You're gonna print it, Christina?
Yeah, I'll print it quick.
Do you want me to pause then until you can all have it in front of you?
You first, I think it's on your good.
Mhm.
Boy, I'm so old school, I like paper.
It would have come.
I sent you both of yours, I think, Denny. If you're old and you're.
I come from Tanya on the docket.
Christina Ernie Baldwin's, and she sent it to polarcom.com too.
I sent it to both of yours, so you should.
Supporting documents for budget meeting.
Their extension. Tornado.
It's been Monday, actually.
I'll go ahead, I'll watch it, it's wrong today.
She's printing.
She's printing them.
I'll give you a couple. So.
I have to.
You have it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Let's come back next. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tanya, thank you.
No, that's okay. So as I was saying, that's where the.
I'll take one.
Yeah. Many. So I provided 2% and 2.5% for full options, okay? Aside from that, we do our market review. It was determined last year, we would try to split it into thirds and do a third each year. However, this year would have been our year to catch everybody up. This would have been our third year in the cycle. So I just did the rest of the ones that we did not do last year to catch everybody up. Moving forward, we'll break it into thirds, okay? So it encompassed 33 employees in these positions. On the second page. There were, how many positions? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, probably 16, I think, positions total. For some of those are positions where we have multiple individuals, right, in each position. you'll see there, well, let me back up and talk briefly about the market. So last year, we removed rural Lake County for a number of reasons. It just wasn't a great fit for our market. And that was done, I mean, we discussed that here, at the commission. Based on our strategic planning meetings this year, I added Grand Forks County. That was a pretty strong comment that came about in our discussions in strategic planning. I took them at 90%, so I included those salaries, but I bumped it back to 90% of those salaries. But I included that in the mix for our market, picture of market. And where it was applicable, I also included state data. So if there's a position that was, that is in our, the labor market information that the North Dakota Job Service puts out, I also included that if it was relevant, there was a relevant comparable. So with all of that information, I take a look at where we are in comparison to that market, and that's what you see as the position in market. So, as an example, that first top left, extension administrative assistant, that one is at 90%. It means that our salaries are sitting at about 90% of what that job market indicates, okay? Our total average position in market is 91%. If you look at all of those, the lowest being in those 80s, state's attorney, which is not a surprising one. We had our assistant state's attorney last year that we had to review because that was, that market has really seen some aggressive movement. VSO. So with all that information, I gave you some budget impact scenarios on the last page, okay? I tried to simplify it as much as possible and give you just the raw data that you need. So I didn't break it down and tell you what each position was going to be getting. I did have discussions with several department heads. Because this is our opportunity to address any compression issues that we might have in any departments. Because we've had to respond to the job market. And so I did navigate one-on-one conversations with several department heads to make some of those adjustments. And correct any compression issues, because now is the time that we would want to do that anyway, okay? Any questions from anybody? That's a quick overview of everything.
Paul,
When you're measuring, you're taking a sample from another market, are you looking at the median number or the average?
Yep, I'm looking at the median, yes, yep,
And compared to our median?
correct. To expand on that too, at times, it's not the median, because if there's, at times I can use something other than the median. For example, Association of Counties data just recently started including the years of service. So if they're on the sampling that I have, if a lot of those employees are brand new employees, and maybe they only have a year or 2 years in, I'm looking more so at the bottom end of our scale for those, if that's the data that I have. So I used to always just look strictly at the median, but the data has improved that we're getting from them, and so I'm able to tailor it a little bit more closely, so.
Can you just explain to me on that, the non-reviewed position, what that line means?
Yeah, so basically, when I'm looking at, that's in reference to the COLA, right? And so the data that I used to conduct the review was 2025 salaries, our 2025 salaries compared to our other market 2025 salaries. We can make the assumption that other agencies are also going to add a cost of living increase. So I gave you options that show that we are giving a COLA increase to everybody. Or I gave you options where you're gonna add that COLA to the positions where I did not conduct the market review for them. So for example, I didn't include the dispatchers, for example, they were last year, right? We did the review for them last year. So on that non-reviewed positions, the dispatchers are gonna get the COLA added to their scale, their existing scale, because we didn't touch it. But other positions that are under the review, so the jailers, okay, are gonna get just their market adjustment, okay? They're right around 92%, 93%. If you choose to move them up to 100%, then they're gonna get a 7 or 8%, whatever decision you make. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I have a question, Tanya, on your data here, it says, like, for example, the first one on the last page, says 95% market adjustment plus 2% COLA for all positions. Are the steps included in there as well?
Correct, yes.
Okay, they
I
are.
should have clarified that. Yep.
Okay, so.
Yep, so that's
I wasn't sure if they are.
assuming a step increase, yep,
Right.
assuming that of course is not, that's with acceptable job performance.
Right,
I always encourage, department heads, if we are dealing with some performance management struggles, then that should be discussed, right?
It's not an automatic.
It's
step.
not an
It's
automatic.
Step grade.
Correct.
Performance.
Yep, but I'm not aware of a lot of performance problems across the county, thankfully, so that's an assuming for budgeting purposes, each position was granted one step, yes.
Okay.
Good question.
Ernie, when you took 90% of Grand Forks' salary, was that still higher than ours?
Yeah, it depended on the position, honestly. Some were noticeably higher and it did affect our market, others not so much. So I think it was a smart move to include it, honestly. I mean, we went from last year, Rolette County is really, for a number of reasons, not a great comparable, and we needed to throw them out. Just because of where we're physically located, I think it's smart to include Grand Forks County. You know, we went through this years ago. I don't remember, Ernie and Danny, you guys might remember it, but we were having such a difficult time. It was before we had the zone in place, and social workers were impossible to find and keep. And we would train them for like 6 months and they'd go to Grand Forks County Social Services. And so we literally sat down and had to pencil it out. What does it take for it to be a comparable, job
The
here?
cost of driver.
Yeah, I mean, we factored in the cost of driving and all that, and that magic number that we came up with was right in that 87 to 90% range, If we are at 87 to 90% of Grand Forks County, then it's difficult to say that they're gonna have a better,
Right.
excuse me, compensation package if they're going to Grand Forks
So I
County.
was just questioning if 90% was high enough.
Oh,
So we're not,
sure.
yeah,
In that strategic planning session, I don't remember who was all in there, I believe Christine, Amy were both in that discussion, and a couple others. We did talk about that a little bit, and I think we kind of said we agreed
Okay.
with that, on that 90 is a good place to start.
because we do lose people to Grand Forks, no
We
matter
do,
what.
yep, we do. Mhm.
So it looks like we have. Before we have decided to go within 95% of market 1 year, we went within 100% of market, right?
We've done both,
So
so
we've done
that's
both.
why I wanted to give you both options, yeah.
Okay.
Last year it was 100, I just looked back at, the last couple, and I believe the year before that was 95.
So we have some decisions to make here. So basically what we're going to decide on, the way I understand it, is we're going to look at this last page where where Tanya has given us different options. The 95% market plus 2% COLA for all positions. 100% market plus 2% COLA for non-renewed positions. Next one does not include non-renewed. And then we go to the 95%, right? And 2.5% COLA. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just that there's three, that it's a COLA, and then, so it's 2% or 2.5.
Mhm.
And then 95 or 100, and then how you're applying that COLA. I did not give you the 95 market and 2% COLA only for non-review, because that wouldn't have. There's some positions that are sitting at, say, 93.5%, right? So if you're just gonna bring them to 95%, they're getting less than what they would get just for the COLA. If they're just getting up to 95%, it's only 1.5%, so that's why I didn't even give you that option, so.
So I think usually what we've done in the past is we've decided on our COLA first.
Typically, yeah.
Typically,
Yep, I just figured typically, it can be a collective decision if you want it to be, but that's typically what. I think you've done in the past.
mhm. Or we can look at it differently this year and we can pick one of these options that Tanya has presented to us. So I guess it's up to the board. I think it's a little easier if we narrow down to what we're gonna look at for COLA first, but
And in general, it's similar discussion in that we can go down, I mean, we start with what we want to aim for. But not necessarily going up
right, and the way I understand the COLA is we're partway through the year, right? On the index,
Correct, yeah, the CPI, I mean, but that's why I kind of looked back to see if it's moved a lot, for the first 5-6 months of the year, the June numbers will be out in the next week or two, probably, I didn't look at the release date. But, it doesn't look like there's been any drastic movements, it's been that 2.3 to 2.4 seems like it's where it's kind of hovering right now anyway, but.
and we've done a 2% COLA the last several years.
Yeah, Yeah.
several years, so.
I can't remember, it was 2%. What, were we on board with everybody else, or was it 2.5 and we just did a 2, or how was it?
I think you guys have been slightly under the CPI the last couple of years. I wanna say it was around that 2.5-ish, don't quote me. And you opted for the 2, but. Yeah. There's some years, you know, where it's been really high, you know, like the
Yeah.
COVID, it was
Yeah.
terrible, you know, and.
And we
We
still
didn't-
stuck with 2.
Yeah, we didn't follow that, you know, we didn't go that high.
Right, right. And this year we are looking at caps. We're at the top of our mills.
Now let's spend them on something.
Well, Madam Chair, I guess I would like to aim high and see where we're at, because our employees are our biggest asset and turnover costs money, and yeah, I mean, we don't know where we're at with everything else, but. You know, you have good employees with you, that's gonna help with productivity and, so. I know it's not a guarantee, but I'd like to see us do the 100% market adjustment and 2.5 COLA.
On all positions? Got a motion, or you just,
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
I think
Any
that's
discussion?
I think that's a good goal. There's no saying we can get there, but if we don't plug it into the numbers, we won't know. This is my first round, so, but I'd like to see that if we can do it.
So we're talking 210,000 then, right?
At the most, if we can do it.
But we can always go over.
Right.
Right.
And we just wanna make sure that gets out to the employees, so they aren't counting on this, because. I think it's gonna be tough to squeeze 210,000 out of our budget. Depending on what happens.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that continue.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll. Jenny,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yep.
Paul,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carried. Thank you for the information you provided, appreciate it, it was nice to have it.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you. I will communicate with. I have communicated with several of them, but I can communicate with all the department heads and help provide these numbers so that they can. Come up with them on their own. I think there are 1 or 2 that might be needed today that plugged in something, so those will need you to reach the staff on that.
Okay.
I think we went kind of in the middle, maybe plugging something, and just have something with it, so.
Excellent. All right, thank you so much, Tanya. Tanya. Okay. Up next, we have the Walsh County Historical Society. Good afternoon, come on up, come on down.
Yeah, look at what happened, yeah, look at you twice. Welcome on board.
Thank you. Larry's gonna run the next one. I told him that I'd soften him up for you.
You didn't wanna see me fight.
No, we didn't. If you could take a minute or 2 and go over this, would be fantastic. I have with me today Larry Gunderson. He happens to be vice president of Virgin Village and also the treasurer of the Historical Society.
Welcome.
Shannon Brazel is Walsh County Minto Museum's co-curator. And if there's some specific questions on that. I guess to start this out with. Appreciate the invite to come up here and present. I think as you know what we do in both of these museums, I think is quite extraordinary, quite unique. The Museum Alive kind of got washed out, but they're gonna do it again. So they're gonna, a shorter version, but they're gonna do it again. We had Summerfest last week and we fed over 160 people. We had the car show out there. We had the carousel run nonstop. We had Tom Hendrickson's famous popcorn and, snow cones, yeah, whatever, so.
Did you bring any?
Pardon?
Did you bring any for us?
I don't melted. But, we appreciate the help that the county gives us. It helps us do these things, as you can see with some of the projects, this is not even all the projects, but these are highlighting the projects that we are doing out there. We poured some cement, we have farmer's market out there. We have what's that with the police and the sheriffs and everything out there? What's that date?
National Night Out.
National Night Out. It was absolutely jam packed. Overflow parking was jam packed. We are renting out, the village, main building, a lot more now, cause people have been coming around and more, exposure, more people. And I guess that's on the village side. The mental side is busy all the time. Also, Sharon, if you wanna,
But I am finding more and more, we have people that are calling. My number is on the website for the Historical Society, so I field calls or the Historical Society, Heritage Village, and then Walsh County Museum in Midtown. I'm getting phone calls from people that, yes, they have ties, but then also people that don't have ties to the county. Or to North Dakota, period, and they're coming up here to visit either the museum, Heritage Village, or both. So this is, it's been quite interesting and even international. We got people from New Zealand, Europe, all over coming. And we're working to keep up the grounds and everything, and, the one-room schoolhouse. Right, as of today, they finished putting in new windows. Replaced the original windows and got them two of the buildings painted. So. And as our list, like you said, there's more that needs to be done to help with accessibility in that. And, we're working on that, on making it more accessible, but it's a fun, it's an interesting, and at times be exhausting. But it's something I do to help to help promote Walsh County, so.
I don't envy your position right now. Everybody's here with their hands out, wanting more, of course. I guess if we could maintain our status quo, we'd be happier than all get out. And, that $5,000 grant, I think Ernie, you were almost the inception of that for something happened back, it'd be quite a while ago now, I think.
What do you, what was that?
Well, we've had the quarter meal now for
Yeah.
a while, but with the $5,000 grant, that's above and beyond that.
Luther and I,
Yeah.
I don't know if you were here, Danny, when we started that or not, and
I
we said, you guys,
think
we just figured that, the 5,000, that little bit can help you guys every year, and I think hopefully it's been a big plus for you, and I'd like to see it stay there.
We rented out for the building for $175 a day, I mean, it's all the little things, it's, if you get a big donor, it's great and fine, but.
I think the one we're
Not
on,
big.
and I think you've been pretty forward with this, we always said we wanted to know what the project was that you're looking for, and you have, and it's sort of nice, so if somebody asks me, I can say, well, with 5,000, look, if they did this. And you guys, I still can't figure it out with all the buildings and stuff you guys got, how you do a great job of maintaining, and keeping it, and I'd like.
Larry and I, we doubled our wages from last year, so we added a zero.
Oh, yeah, you have 3 zeros now?
So maybe that's how come we're making it work, and I hope it is. To us, it's a challenge, and, when we get a project done, we step back and the A-team did pretty good, yeah.
And I commend you guys for volunteering your time and everything, it's a passion, along with what you do and stuff, so. But yeah, I personally, I guess if somehow we can keep that 5,000 there, I'd like to see it, cause I think it's done you well, and
Yeah,
it's $5,000 extra. I said, if we can't care about our heritage, then we're losing something here.
and, if any of you feel the need to have to come and get a private tour, you know, we can make that happen.
Or in Minto, not
You're taking me to the jail.
Say, now you refurbished it.
Yeah, I know you did.
Help from our local sheriff. The clocks are, a little thin, the mattresses are a little thin and cracked up.
No sleeping bag or anything?
Maybe we should just add on to that one.
They talked about that too. We told him that it didn't go cheap, but.
So I have two questions, are both Minto and Heritage part of the talking trails, the Pembroke County that is?
the museum is not.
Okay, but Heritage is,
Heritage.
okay, and then I'm just assuming the website costs 25, is that just, you have someone that runs that for you, or what?
I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know.
Oh, tell them.
Okay, I need the.
I just had an email from them.
Very big bill, so.
Right, that is.
Tell
I think there's a line missing.
I just got a website.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sorry, I just got a website on here. It went for $2,500.
Okay.
Tell well.
Yeah, there you go, tell well.
And they run your website like that,
Yes.
so that's like a monthly cost,
No, that's your.
annual, so it's like updates or doing.
We do have somebody who can go in within the historical society who has access to do. If we need something updated, like events or that kind of thing, we can get in there and they can update it for us if necessary. So,
Okay.
but that's a volunteer who does that, so.
And part of the operations cost there from Minto Museum and Heritage Village, we gave both, historical society gave both of them $7,500 last year for. Whatever projects they need to do, so that's what that operations is.
Got a question of meeting snacks, $14.97, go high.
So. Meeting snacks.
Lot of.
Yeah.
I don't know how many are losing weight, but
Yeah.
that's the best we could do.
I just want to say thank you to all of you for what you do, because places look nice, and I'd hate to see what they look like, what they would look like if you weren't there, I appreciate it.
We're trying to find some younger people.
Yes,
to,
somebody
will
else.
either take over and, or we'll help train.
Yeah, the four of us out at the village, they're working all the time, and Daryl's our baby, and he's 72, so I mean, we You're in trouble.
You just hope, we can laugh about it, we just hope there's somebody younger that's gonna wanna do this.
We're trying to work on it, it's, the younger, the 40, 50s are still working.
Yeah,
They got jobs, and then for younger families, and, it's a tough, kind of a dual-edged sword that you're gonna.
I find people who volunteer at the museum in Minto, if I have a specific project. And they have time, and then I typically will get a nice group that will come in. Or individuals that will come in, because a lot of times I'm working by myself in that building. Some people are like, how can you be, that building has to be haunted, how can you be in there by yourself? It's not haunted.
What I see is the younger generation, and maybe the 40s to 50s, they don't, I don't wanna say care, but they don't seem interested as much as like we were to the old tractors, the old trucks, or what happened in the old schools, and it just seems that we're losing that a little bit.
We can relate.
Right, and-
Well, they can't, they didn't enroll when they don't know how it started.
Right,
I wanna put a plug into the beautification committee, I don't know if you guys are part of it at all, but. They come in. Gangbusters, they did just a fantastic job, they had their committees, subcommittees. They give us a list of stuff for what we had out there, they come, took inventory and it was just fantastic, they were just. Unbelievable what they can do in 3-4 hours or so, and
They did a wonderful job.
we just told them, keep coming back. Couple times.
Well, that's awesome.
So anyway,
Any other questions for the historical?
I tried to say one thing, I've more and more been involving the local schools, the high schools. I've had Midway, Minto, Park River so far that have become, and they've helped me with projects at the museum, so I have been trying, and working with. The youth
Mm-hmm,
per se,
4-H club,
yeah, FFA,
yeah,
SCLA, CCLA, they have been coming in and they've been volunteering their time too.
great,
So I'm working harder on that.
Cause there's some interest there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you just need to plant a seed in one of those little guys or girls and maybe something might happen.
you never know.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, all of you, thanks for everything you do.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Okay, do we need a quick break or keep going?
We got 3 minutes.
Quick break? Okay, we got 3 minutes, so.
Before we figure out.
For coffee on the river.
Okay, we'll go ahead and reconvene the meeting, and next up, we have Katie Thompson.
Hello, thank you all.
Attention, thank you.
I'm here to present the budget for the Walsh County Fair. And then I've got the extension service, budget behind there. So, on the first page of what I distributed earlier, we're just kind of keeping with things that are in line with what has customarily been done. You want me to go through each line item?
I don't think so. Do you guys want each line item or?
I guess if you just have a major one that changed or something, that's good.
Right.
Nothing really changed, just for reference though, the support staff, I have always designated 15% of her. FTE to the fair budget, just because there's so much work that's done late April through middle of October. And then a little bit, of course, after that too, but, so 15% of her FTE is there. I did just visit with Tanya, she said that, you guys had approved a little bit higher on the COLA, so. Her number would change a little bit, just because of the 2.5%. But that's the only thing there. I did keep 20% or $20,000 in the budget for building improvement. Just because we don't know what is going to happen. The northeast part of our static building is in really poor shape. I was up there last night. We got a call that our utilities are really high, and I'm like, why are the utilities high? Hardly anybody's gone in there. There were people that used the restrooms in there when they were getting ready for the parade on 4th of July. Everything's been clean, we haven't had any damage, thank goodness. So putting the locks and the cameras in place has helped. We can't lock the doors because the building is not square. I don't see the point in putting in more money to fix that particular door, like the main entrance doors. But every time I'm out there, I'm locking the south door across from the main entrance. And then we kind of keep close tabs to make sure everything is fine. Bailey's got the mowing contract too, so it's nice to have another set of eyes. So that part is fine, but I just don't see the point of putting anything in unless we have something catastrophic where we have to do it for a short period of time.
And why were the utilities so high, did you say?
We don't know yet.
You still don't know.
What
Okay.
I'm thinking, and I haven't had time, I had kids cooking school this morning, so I was gonna visit with the city auditor to see, they put the new electric monitor or like the meters in. And I'm wondering if maybe they didn't get something miscoded. I don't know if maybe the electric in the water is coming through from the, like the county shop, shop 7. I don't know if those numbers. So if you want to maybe keep an eye on that, I don't know, but, that's the only thing I can think of, but I have to dig a little deeper into it when I get back to Parker today. So we'll try to figure that out. Arena Commission does cover those expenses right now. The only thing that $20,000 line item has gone to has been like replacing the locks last summer and then putting in the cameras this past winter and spring. So, it seems like it's going pretty well. Up at the arena, there are some roof leaks right now from the rain yesterday. But we've got a dehumidifier working. We have to go up and empty it frequently, but everything else seems to be really good. I was very pleasantly surprised with it. Are there any questions on the fair budget then?
Paul?
I'm just wondering about the 20,000, I guess buildings, you never know, but that's a lot more than we've been spending. Is there any particular thing that you want this money for?
At this point, I'm not earmarking it for anything in particular, just in case we have to shore up that northeast corner of the static room. Because there are some big drops in there, you can see daylight from inside very easily. I don't see the point in putting something in right now, but if it continues to drop further or we have structural concerns, then we would need it. But I think it would maybe, and I'm not a structural engineer nor a carpenter, but if we don't have to spend it, let's not plan to spend it if we know that we don't have a long-term plan in place for the current fair building. And then in this, the southeast wall of the hockey arena that butts up next to the sheep and goat and hog barn, there's a significant crack there as well. It doesn't seem like that's moving at all. We see a lot more movement out of the northeast corner of the static room. So I have no idea what that would cost.
Do we know what the balance is of that building improvement? I mean, it's, you know, it was 20,000 and there was 4,300 used, like, what's in that fund or line item?
17 is what they told us when they presented the Fairbury project.
Is the balance of that?
It was 17,000.
I think
That sounds about right, cause it was 20 and they used 3.
Mhm.
So it hasn't been 20 for several years, I mean,
Well, it
this
has, but that gets transferred out with the general fund transfer,
If they don't use it, yeah.
if they don't use it.
Yeah, the current balance, this is what I received from the auditor's office, as of June 30th. There's $16,828.66 left in that for this year.
So my only thought is they presented that and said if we may not get a new fair building, but I guess I would. Put it in as a some in terms of a new static room to the north, if you're gonna have to do something on that building. Yeah, I would line item that, you know, it maybe needs to be static room so that you have something that you can. Either build or put in as its own line item. Because is that wrong to, if you ended up doing a new fair building, you'd have, but that is a legitimate problem, and if you don't build a new fair building. You're gonna have nothing if you don't consider it as a priority.
So what you're saying is don't let it go back to the general fund, let it roll over into the stat, if they don't do this area this year, let it roll over into that
That's a
same fund for
legitimate
next
cost,
year.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Paul,
In our budget meetings, Christy Q and I don't know if she talked to you about this, Christina, but we talked with the department heads about this very thing, these types of line items where. You know, you don't know what it's gonna be from one year to the next, and you budget 20,000 and you spend 4, well, that 16 then just. Gets transferred out of the general fund, right, the rest of it. When Christie said the idea would be to. Transfer that 16,000 into the general fund, and if 20,000 is the number you want to reserve. And you only have to budget for the next year, not the full 20, and that way we're keeping that money for what it was intended for. And so your 20,000 would be sitting there, 4,000 in one line and 16,000 in the other. Did she talk to you about that?
Yeah, and I think, designating expenditures in the general fund is much easier than designating from one fund to the next,
Okay,
if you have access. So she did talk about that, and the balance for the building improvement is that 16,828.
Yeah.
Like she said. Yeah, it would just be me.
You know, and through our
Other line, sure.
through our budget meetings, when you look at line items like that, there's unbelievable amount, when we were looking at them, how many had a balance of 20 and only used 3? And I said, sometimes. Do we need all those mills and charging the people if we're not using the money? And that's what we're talking about and looking at too, so. Is it right that we're telling the people, cause now you're gonna budget 20, and I'm not saying you don't have to or whatever. But if we only use 3 and we can save 17,000 and you've got 6 departments. Well, that's $100 and some thousand that we don't have to put for general mills and drop our mill levy.
yeah,
And that's what we're sort of looking at this budget committee deal.
Yeah.
We haven't decided anything, but it was, when I first saw it, cause Christie and him brought it, and I went, wow, there's a lot of money there that. And you know, you see a budget every year and you don't look at it, and all of a sudden every year you go back and look at, it. Well, you had 20, you used 5, you had 20 and you used 2.
Yeah.
Whether it goes back or not, but yet we're still charging the taxpayers on those mills on that 20 grand and we're not using it. So I don't know if that's right.
and in some cases, those are legitimate concerns, to have this kind of money there
Yeah.
for a project. You never know what's gonna come up on a building like that.
And I also added, ever since I've been here, I've never felt bad or anything. If somebody over budgeted because of some reason, well, big deal. Then you give them the 5,000 because they over budgeted. A budget to me is a guess, and you try to keep it low. So let's say you did this and dropped it to 10 and all of a sudden something happened, you needed 15, you needed 5 more. Well, big deal.
Yeah.
Cause we didn't charge the people, we still got it in the general fund. To me, I'd rather see that than charging mill levies for all this and we don't use it.
I can never get my banker to go along with that.
Yeah.
Well, I know. But we're different, we're working with taxpayer money and, you know.
I know, but. I don't wanna see these accounts get built up. To somebody, I mean, there's a lot of money sitting out there in some of these accounts, they're just.
Well, and that's why we said just start dropping these mill levies and not giving them as much if they don't use it.
The point is though, when you're budgeting 20,000 and spending 4. that's where the buildup comes in, and that 16 ends up getting transferred out of the general fund in the form of, was it 1.4 million last year, transferred out of the general fund?
Yeah.
That's where that money came from, is from these line items.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because now we're taking that money and setting it over here and doing whatever we want with it, instead of leaving it here
In a line item.
for the line item that it was
Right.
intended to be for.
And that was part of his thinking behind his budget deal, and I sort of like it, when you look at it.
So I have a question for you guys, and I understand your thought process with this, and I agree with it, but. Okay, so right now you have 17,000 sitting in this fund. We're only partway through the year. We don't know what you'll have at the end of 2025 in that fund. So right now you're making a decision saying, well, she's only spent 17,000. Let's just transfer that to another fund. She doesn't need 20, she only needs 3 because. But we get to the end of the year and she might have spent that 17,000, so then where are we at?
Well,
Then
that's
what
the
do we
budget
do?
process, we're sitting here budgeting next year's budget, this is all the guessing game.
Yeah,
Where is our cash balance gonna be at the end of the year? I have
we
no
don't know.
idea.
But if we knock everybody down and say, okay, you can't budget 20 now, we're only gonna let you budget 3, right?
Yeah.
And then she spends that 17 by the end of the year because something does happen, then she's short for the year, so that, to me, there's a.
But look at
You don't have to
here,
do it all in one year.
right,
You can ease into it.
Okay,
look at 24, she only spent 4,400 in the
Yeah.
20, what did she do in,
And
I'm not saying UK, what did they do in 23? And we sort of looked back and got some extra years and saw that, it was the same history just about.
well,
Budget 20 and spend 3, and yeah, maybe there was one that was high, but not very many went over what the, let's say they turned it, or we do a special line item. That's,
Well, and if I may. Our fair association did not know that this existed until maybe 2 years ago. And so when there were a lot of expenses to
Yep.
come in, they had no idea that the county had a line item to put towards building maintenance, so they were doing the bare minimum. To keep the costs low, to keep the building open, but now I feel like that snowball is too far gone. And now, it's not, we can't do preventive maintenance, we have to do the must do maintenance, and so. We all know cement is very expensive, so if we have to bring in a mud jack or excavate that corner or the other corner of the building.
Yeah.
What can of worms could we open up? We know there's other damage too. I just am very
Yeah.
cautious about what we do, because we could get into a really big pickle, but. So, I appreciate your thought process, Ernie, because I have
Yeah.
a very different approach for the extension office, so.
well, and I get where you're coming from, because there's honestly. Just today, they couldn't even turn my curb stop up, so I'm looking at digging up a curb stop and everything else, because they can't turn my water up. Surprise,
Right,
and that's what you're talking about, surprise deals, and I get it, but
yeah,
and I'm not just solely mentioning you or picking on you, because I said there's a lot of departments that haven't used it for many years, and why are we budgeting?
right,
Amy,
You know,
so first of all, I think that it would be wise for your department to look at a bit of a strategic plan. Now, could there be amazing things to see a new county building come up? Yes, like that to say, if that were to happen, but I think a plan B is a good idea, because $20,000, if that's what you wanna maintain in that line item, and we look at that in the budgeting process. To me, that's nothing for what you potentially would have to do on the building you have, if that's gonna be the plan going forward. So what does that cost look like, and does that line item below need to be higher than 20, and something that we do say, okay, you budgeted this, but we need to consider more based on. Because the other piece of it is I am married to the hockey board president, and I know how much money they spend on this building.
Yeah.
This is not how much it's maintaining this building.
no.
So
Lost.
skating and hockey puts a lot of money into this building.
Yeah.
And if that goes, that's on us. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, then I have the extension budget. So the extension budget, our salaries are set by IDSU, so I just plug those numbers in for what my supervisor has told me to put in. So Rachel's salary is the line item, it ends in .004, so that will change a little bit, but it will be significant. I kept the $500 part-time help, in case she's ill and we need to pull somebody in, Or if all three of us need to be gone at the same time, it's been really helpful having that line item. We did use it the last couple of years because I was short-staffed. So it was very much appreciated. We've got $4,000 budgeted for our office supplies. Each month, I forget off the top of my head, but I do have the file with me. We have our ABM lease with our printer copier machine, so that's about $260 each month. So that's over $3,000. Then we need just office supplies, we need paper and toner and staples and other little supplies here and there. We also ordered a significant amount of like cleaning supplies, so we didn't have to pay a lot to just go to the grocery store, the hardware store to charge like toilet cleaner and window cleaner and things like that. So that was kind of a big chunk, but that should last us for a year. So I'm hoping that 4,000 will last there. Travel is a big hike. Last year at this time, I'd asked my supervisor what she thought we should put in for 2 agents, and she had said $12,000. And it was cut in September to $8,000. Bailey, she's expected to be out of the office 50% doing the travel, which is great, because like this morning, like we talked at 4:30 when she left yesterday, like, okay, see you at 8, and she was like, hey, I'm here at 8, can I go out? Yep, you have to do your job, she has to do those crop reports and scout different things and make the relationships. So it's been really nice having that. We have the state fair coming up, so that's going to be very expensive. We try to travel as much as we can together, but we just can't always, so I think by the end of the year, we might be pretty close to that $8,000. We know that mileage is probably, it's not gonna get cheaper, we know that much. So I estimated high on that. It'll be interesting to see how we wrap up the year, but once we get through like August, then we'll have a good idea for that. Telephone, last year we budgeted $2,000, and then our telephone bill went up significantly. So we are averaging about 260 to 275 a month now with our folder bill. So we will be over that budget in a hurry here. So I increased that to 3,500, hoping that they don't have any more significant increases. Postage, we've increased that to $1,500 for the year. We do a lot more mail. A lot of our farmers have appreciated the postcards that we've been sending out to remind them about different things. They can put it in their visor I'm gonna pick up, or post on the fridge, or, you know, friendly reminder of different opportunities coming up, or meetings that they have, or hey, your pesticide certification is coming due. So we do have more going out with postage. I do have a note about that, but I'll save that for the end. We've kept with $500 for programming and marketing. I haven't used the marketing yet because First Care has been really helpful and supportive with our powerful tools for caregivers. And then for some of our other programs that we've had, we've gotten some good traction with social media. But Bailey has some plans for other programming. So that might be helpful to have advertised on KXP or radio. So that's kind of what we're hoping for. So we haven't spent it yet, but there are plans in place to do that. Programming, we received 2 grants to fund some gardening initiatives in Park River, and then we had hoped to be in Minto with their event, but that was canceled due to weather. But instead of using programming dollars for those, we've been able to use the grant dollars that we weren't really expecting to have. Fringe benefits, I kept that at 20,000. It looks like that's what's been done for many years. It does look like the projection might be pretty close to that for this year. But I believe that that is what covers the health insurance and retirement, things like that. Miscellaneous, we kept that at $1,500. Capital outlay, you're gonna see a really big increase. So our restrooms are not ADA compliant, and with us having more older adults coming in, we're getting a lot more walkers and canes. NDSU pesticide program paid for our electronic door openers, which have been a great addition, very much appreciated, lots of good feedback on that. But it would be nice if there was a little bit more space and then privacy in the bathrooms, for individuals that need a little bit more space to move around. I have asked past storage for a quote on what it would cost to update the bathrooms to make them ADA compliant. I have not received that yet. So I just put $30,000 in for that purpose. And the reason why is we have a really nice building, it's in a great location. I would like to continue to have it be a nice location, for the county. And I think bathrooms are kind of like a bare minimum thing that we can provide to every individual regardless of their abilities or their needs. So I would like if we could consider that in the future. And then, where does this money come from? There were many years of salary savings, so I've heard. I don't know where it's at, but Kristen Q had said like, well, there's, carryover from other years, so I don't know if we can utilize those funds or not. But that's my idea of where's the money gonna come from? We didn't have an ANR agent for almost a year and a half, so maybe it could come from there. Now, the good news is, a year ago when I was here, we were trying to cancel our postage meter. And after almost 11 months, we finally got it canceled. The auditor's office had sent the payment, the client lost her payment, they kept sending us emails saying, you're late on your bill, and I said, no, we canceled this. Here's the contract, here's what it was, but we didn't get your payment. Kelsey was amazing, helping us track down that payment, say when it was cashed and what account it went into. We went through 3 or 4 different people on audience in, where I'd send it all in and get no response, and it just like, oh, they don't work for us anymore. And I was like, oh, you've got to be joking. So it took a long time, but we finally got one customer service rep who followed it through. And so, we were told that there's about $7,000 in postage that we were paying in, but it wasn't going to our account that we could see on our postage meter. And so, I was told that they will be issuing a refund. I don't know if I will believe that until I see that check come to our office, but, so there could be $7,000 coming back in to the county for that. So we don't miss the postage machine at all. I don't miss the headaches, I don't miss dealing with them. So I'm,
That would go back into the postage then, or how would that get handled? Not that important figure.
Yeah, but we'd have.
Thinking of losses.
I'm not sure.
We'd have to refund the fund that it was paid out of.
That's what I thought.
Madam Chair, I have a question, remind me, is there 1 bathroom or 2?
we have like a men's bathroom with 1 stall that is very narrow. It is just inches on both sides of the toilet. And then it has a urinal and then 2 sinks. There's a women's bathroom with 2 stalls and 2 sinks, and then we have a handicap one. And at Brad's retirement party, there was someone that was in a motorized wheelchair and there was not at all enough room for that.
My thought is, I know you do events in there, but I was just in a restaurant in Minnesota and they had 2 bathrooms that were large size, but they were just bathrooms.
Yes. and that's-
Anybody could go in them, they were large, so they would handle whichever one was open, you went in. I mean, I understand the urinal and the what, but from a perspective of like how often they're used and maximizing, that would be my suggestion on.
Yeah,
the
and
bathroom
that's,
line.
when we had talked about this several years ago with Ken Lentz, and that was how he had designed them. So I had just reached out to him to say, hey, can we revisit this? This is the plan that I would like quoted out, and I haven't heard from him, so.
Those bathrooms are well overdue.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're,
we talked about this a couple
How
of
many
years
years
ago.
ago, I was saying,
they're original,
Yeah.
1972, I'm pretty sure.
no, but I mean, we brought it up that we were gonna do something with the bathrooms probably
4 or
5 years.
But we couldn't find a contractor at that point.
Okay,
We had tried going with smaller entities, but now, like Jason doesn't have time to be a general contractor for that, nor do I. So we were thinking, let's just go with Pastorix, or if you have other people other agencies you'd like me to contact, I'm happy to do that. But I would really like if we could see this improvement in the near future.
well,
Okay, any other questions for Katie? We're running a little behind here, so. Have you got through everything?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
If you have any
Thank you
questions,
very much.
please reach out. Thank you so much.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. Okay, up next, we have the Water Research District. Larry? Afternoon.
Okay,
See if we can find your tab here before you start.
You tell me when you're ready.
Almost all the way back. Pretty good? Okay, go ahead.
We'll go on the first sheet, our budget request. You got that sheet?
Yeah.
Okay. You can look at the 25 and then I'm gonna compare that to the 26, I'll go through the contract of services. Meter control are pretty much the same, county maps. That pretty much staying the same. Legal and audit fees, that we've been doing an audit this year, so that. Pretty much staying the same, I think we're changing out what's someone audit, maybe into a federal audit, maybe in the future. So that stays the same at 33,000. Survey and expenses that we have to do any dike and stuff like that, we have to do, we kept that at 10,000, so the total contract of services are 45,000. Maintenance on the dam, Forest River and Park River are each at 10,000, and then we have did the emergency action plans that we have. We gotta do that every so often, we gotta update those action plans for the case one of the dams. Burst or breach or whatever, we have to have that ready so we can contract the right people, so. The total cost of that was $131,000, but we get some of that back from the State Water Commission. So that will be in 26, we should be done with that in 25. So the total dam maintained, or keeping the same at 20,000. Park River is snagging and clearing, we do a snagging and clearing, sometimes we do a snagging and clearing project, and sometimes cost overrun reflects back into the next year, which I don't think is right, we're trying to catch up on that. So last year we have to pay $9,500 out of the general fund because the contract that we did was already done. And when you do a new snagging and clearing, you can't take it out of that budget, so we have to take it out of our general fund to pay it. So this year we're at $2,000. Then we'll go down to office expense, dues permits, $2,000. Insurance 6,200 versus 53 last year. Office supplies 7,000. Telephone 3,500, so total office expenses at 18,700. Payroll expenses, taxes, benefits of 37,525. And salaries 123,525 is total 161,000 for 2026. And travel, meals and lodging of $8,000 this year. So we're at, so our total budget is 254,750, if I don't know, you figured the meal from last year, I think we were, if that was my correct, that was 266,944, so we're about $8,000 underneath that. But that is as of July 1st, so we still got a ways to go. And if you wanna go back up to that, NRCS dam, we have no figures, I'll just give you that, that's the money that is sitting there for Magic, Fortville and Berlin. We have paid that out of our budget over the years. And then when we get cost share from the State Water Commission and probably from River Joint Board, that comes back, and that's that money that we have paid out that is back in our savings. Everybody understand that, right?
Madam Chair,
Amy,
clear, so that is what's in the savings, part of that savings balance then, is that.
So if something happens, that we go with Matachek and Fortville and Berlin, if something happens in the future. That money is sort of earmarked, we don't. Basically take that money out and use it for something else, if something comes up, we gotta do surveying or something like that, where that account's gonna come out of Matachek. Those are ongoing thing, if this ever happens down in the future, that's what that may be allocated.
okay,
And the only other thing that we have is, sometimes we get, legal drains that are doing, just for example, we got a drain 4 by grade,
Well, there's sometimes we have to take money out of the general fund to get those guys going. Because by the time they come to a road and we do the survey and stuff like that. There's no money in that account to do that, so we gotta, sometimes we make those loans. To those drains, and then after they get it voted on and if it passes, we get that money back. Cause right now, if you look at, we got some drains like a. Now, just like that drain 48 where we put that bridge in on number 9 last year. Well, we had to take $140,000, which they didn't have in that account and pay that. So that was way over, so we took that out of the general fund. And gave that to them. And if we got short on our budget, we could go on half the loan, or we could get that money if we're not dead broke, but there. There's 2 drains that we got about $161,000 that we got. Entitled to come back to our. And we're running into that for drain 4A up a drain, we're gonna do a vote on that. And there's things that we have to pay for. Engineering fees and stuff like that, they don't have the money, but they're gonna vote on. When they go around, hopefully they'll get it back. Yeah. Question.
They pay quite a bit on engineering, just like the highway department.
Unbelievable.
I see you're requesting 4 mills. Do you remember what we gave last year? I don't have my.
No,
It was one.
It was 4 last year, okay.
all I know is that if with figure 266, 934.
Yeah.
So,
It was 4 months.
Okay,
I don't know what your meals are this year, so,
okay, all right, I just didn't have it in front of me, so.
yeah.
Any questions for Larry or any of the other board members? Okay.
State funding is secure, or any question about what? Like, we got 3.2 million cut out of our per budget. All your money. You don't know.
No, on the legal drains, they went to a higher percentage, I think I can't remember what it is, they're paying 60% if you do a legal drain now. They're paying, the Big Water Commission is paying more on that, but nothing else that I know from the Big Water Commission that we was aware of that and cut, cause actually they're encouraging that if you got any drains to. Just like what you guys do, if you got a budget, they want you to spend that money. They don't want you to, and that's hard to do those, the way they're voting. Some of the economic analysis go on a drain analysis, it's a little bit more confusing, it's hard to get everybody together to do that. They want you to build these drains and get them going, but it's hard to do. But if they got them going, it's a great deal if you can do the drain and get, 60% out of it, get them done. But anything else, that I know that to me, I'm gonna cut to the water. Anything else?
Okay. I think you're good. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 5 minutes. I don't see the library, I don't see Bill here yet.
And I found some emails on my regardless of super.
Yeah, is,
You said how much is between the coming?
I don't know, I'm just saying that's who presented to us last year,
Okay,
was Katrina, probably.
But Jill should have forwarded that on to Katrina.
well, the email address on file is for the library,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Last time we met, I've only been to one meeting, it was a Zoom meeting, and they were talking about buzz revisitation. But at that time, there was no date. But you've made them aware.
Yeah. And I didn't get any return with vendor.
They've always been for it responding.
Do we know what a mill is worth this year yet?
You couldn't wait till 4 o'clock?
Yeah. Come on.
Just a mouse, we have some feet.
Yeah, stuff right in.
Not good. Okay, we'll reconvene. Hi, Alan, thank you for coming up early, appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So I'm assuming you all received my budget. For the proposed budget, the.
Yeah.
2026 here. Basically. A lot of things remain the same, but I did increase my request for mill levy dollars by 10,000. If you remember last year. I did do a $10,000 reduction based upon some spending of savings. This year I'm asking to put it back in, and the main reason for that being. We've taken a lot of hits from the federal level on funding. I think we'll still tap into reserves pretty heavily this year to the tune of about 90,000. Just to keep the budget going there. The other thing that will shift a little bit is, and you'll hear this in Ron's budget if you haven't already, a bit of an increase for the nursing services that we provide. Last year, what I did was a 75-25 split. So the health district covered 25% of Kelsey's salary and fringe, and this year I'm asking for a 90-10 on that, for the same reasons of. Just, we've had a lot of grants go away, and unfortunately, it looks like that trend may continue. I just received a contract for one of our grants, our emergency preparedness one. It's small, but it did take about let's see, roughly 20% cut, I think. And we're seeing that with some other grants. Our tobacco funding that came in is level funding, but that does represent a cut for us because of putting in raises and how benefits go up and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where we're at. I also factored into this a 3% increase for employees. I've been pretty consistent with that over the years, just based upon inflation numbers.
Yeah, we just had Tanya in here and she said that the CPI index, it was running, what, 2.5?
Okay,
2.5 for inflation for cost of living.
okay, pretty close to that territory.
Anticipate anything coming out of the opioid,
So that continues to come directly to the county. And then through us, what we did with the bulk of it was continue the services that Agassiz provided at a much reduced level. I think I wanna say that in the past, what the county paid was in the territory of 250,000 a year for their services. And I think the last check that was given to them was 59,000, something like that. Cause it's a fairly small amount that comes through. We kept a little bit of it to run the Credible Mind website, which is a website that allows people to go to and enter information about their own personal mental health, and then it will directly kind of refer them to resources. That was about 3,000 to get into. We had a small grant from NACCHO to help supplement that as well, so. But otherwise, it's been pretty much a straight pass through on that level.
Anyone have any other questions for Alan?
So basically you're asking for 160,000.
Yes, mill levy, yeah. Last year, mill levy was 150, the year prior it was 160, so maybe I'm just
Okay,
going like, I'm not sure if that's.
he's teasing us.
So next year.
Our brains work in numbers
Yeah.
well, so,
Yeah.
so we're all sitting here calculating how many mills is that?
Like
So-
2.5.
Yeah.
We want everybody to give us numbers in dollars and then we go back to mills.
Yeah,
A mill value last year was at 66.
almost
Yeah.
67,
Yeah.
yeah.
67, okay, yeah,
And we don't know what this year's is gonna be yet,
right.
so that's not told.
Centrally assessed done. Okay, well, keep up the good work with the declining budget.
Yeah.
I mean, more the federal anyways, but
one of the things that has helped us over time, and you can kind of see it, even if you saw my previous ones where I put fees in the pie chart.
Mhm.
That does include reimbursement that we get for immunizations, just an administrative fee. That's been strong. With that said, it's been real iffy lately, with changes at Health and Human Services on the national level. So I don't know exactly what it's gonna look like going forward. And there, we have a big network in Seicho with our statewide public health group. And there's just a lot of uncertainty
Questions?
and uneasiness about what things are gonna look like going forward, so. Thank goodness we have the reserve we have, to be honest with you, because we'll tap into that to make sure things, that we don't go without services in the county, so.
Mhm. Now, these are very important services. It's not something we can go without.
Yeah,
Um,
well, just a side note, not related to my budget, but just so everybody knows, I think it might have been the last cycle when I had been talking about hiring a nurse for home visiting, and we hired Sarah Dushing. And she's getting to the point where she's almost maxed out on the number of clients she can take, so our home visiting services are being utilized, which is great, because that was identified in the community health needs assessment. So she's seeing mostly elderly folks that are homebound and helping with med setup and getting them referred to the appropriate places, so.
a great program, Amy.
And that she's going all throughout the whole county.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yep. And she's really good at just having connections with our existing facilities too, to make sure that, she'll get a lot of referrals even from Dr. Marquardt, and she'll go see somebody, oh, they might be a better fit for this service, and she makes all those connections for them and fills their medications at the same time too, so.
It's awesome. Keeps them in their home longer. They just need a little extra help, right?
Yep, yep.
Great program. Okay, well, thank you very much,
Yeah,
Alan.
thanks a lot.
Appreciate you popping up early.
Yeah, no worries. It's warm in this room, goodness.
It's a hot seat.
Yeah, right, have a good one.
You too.
You were right, I see. Not just me.
Okay, let me see if anyone else can pop on early.
So, we were sitting here doing nothing, is our next meeting the 22nd?
Believe so.
And that's gonna be the commission meeting too?
Yes.
Oh, I hope so, cause I changed and I'm going to school on the
15.
next, on the 15th.
Right, yeah.
We're going to school?
Well, I gotta take so many hours of class.
Oh, for your.
Yes, I missed one in Jamestown because Julie got sick, so. I think they're still trying to fix stupid.
Wish them luck.
I told them you don't wanna go there.
You have the full staff run? Parker, yeah, Parker report. Yeah, so
Oh, we got the bill?
we did,
Good.
yeah, his first parade,
Okay. All right, welcome Don, thanks for coming up early for us. And we'll let you go ahead and begin.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I haven't been outside all day, so it's nice to get outside. So, what I wanted to share with you today is just a look at our 26 budget and some of the plans we have going into 26. And then I did present to you a 5-year report recently, but what I added to that in the back end was a detailed project list. So that people can really grasp what we're doing and where the impacts are and what types of things we're doing. So I don't intend to review the project list, but it's there for you for reference. So sorry, I had to launch a 3 o'clock meeting and then dump out. So I'm feeling a little scattered. So the 26 budget request from the regional council for Walsh County is $46,350, which represents a 3% inflationary increase. And of our total revenue budget, that's represents 3% of all of our revenues. So as I was writing this, I thought we work hard for our money. So I wanted to start singing. So our revenue budget, we're forecasting right now at $1.5 million. And it comes from 15 sources of cash. And they're from the counties, the locals, the JDA contracts. We also have a contract with the Red River Choto Community Housing Development Organization, different contracts for services, state and federal grants. And so then I provided a list of, the highlights of where those funds are coming from. And we try to scavenger wherever we can find the money. And so we're trying every which way to leverage the money you invest in our program. And when I think about the 3% investment, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like the pivotal keystone money. And so when I think about on the business side, when we're helping businesses with flex space and pace loan buy downs, without the match, which is generally 10 to 25%, you can't leverage any of it. So that's why I call it the keystone. And currently 70% of our projected revenue for next year is in the secured column, which I'm extremely proud of. On the expense side, we have a total expense projection currently at $1.4 million. And our operation operates lean and mean, and 80% of that money goes right into the people power. So that represents wages and fringe benefits. And then the other 20% are all of our operating costs, which I think is generally between 65 to 75% generally would be the staff investment. So we're really, leveraging every dollar we can to invest in people power. I included a testimonial at the bottom from Ty Zeltinger. Ty is our representative from the Bank of North Dakota. He is in Grand Forks. And so when we're working on projects that involve the Bank of North Dakota, he is our go-to. And he provided a short testimonial when we were speaking. And I said, gosh, that all sounds like a testimonial. Do you want to just write that out? So again, we just try to partner wherever we can find the money and whoever's got this vested interest or mission to, enhance the economy of the state. So any questions on page 1? On page 2 is just a look at what we are working on and what we expect to be working on in 2026. We're really, since the end of 22, we've been really investing a lot of energy and time and resources into launching housing development as a critical need in the region. So this year, Lisa she's so ambitious. She is building houses or working on building up houses and finalizing plans for Park River is under construction. There's 2 homes going into the NSTAR addition. They're already under construction. So if you take a drive through there, you'll see them. She met with Michigan this morning. She's working with Grafton on 2 single family and 1 duplex in their North Star addition.
Working with Minto to identify at least one lot for a new house. Cavalier is actually an Apex project that's been underway for quite some time, and we've been having trouble getting that one to the finish line, but we have some new hope recently, so I think it's going to be able to get launched. We don't want to give money back once we get it, so. Rural Grafton, we're working with the Frickies and the Mennonite community out by Nant on a, kind of a senior community housing development that they're wanting to put together. And then Pembina with MCI and other employers up in Pembina, they are just sorely lacking for housing. And after the 97 flood, we were able to build a new mobile home park in Pembina that's been, I drove through there a couple weeks ago. I think there's 2 units in it. And I forget how many slots. So there's just great potential there, and there's existing garage units. So Lisa traveled to Albertville last week and looked at modular housing options. And so how can we bring in even more affordable, very quick housing? The company that she went to visit has been working with Ellendale with their data center project and building apartments and single family homes there. So we're trying to kind of chip away at the affordability of the projects we're working on also. And then in 26, we'll launch this program again. In each year, we're sending out letters to all of the cities in the region, and they have to, they have to identify and donate lots, and they have to have some skin in the game there. But we're trying to help any of the communities that raise their hand and say we want to build housing. So it looks like I also forgot Hoople. Hoople is on that list as well for this year. So we'll see what happens in 26. I think Lisa has built a successful model, and we've been showing people all over the state on how we can leverage these programs and build rural housing. And we're really grateful Paul is sitting on Lisa's Chodo committee and brings a lot of valuable insights there. We also were awarded $1.1 million from the Federal Home Loan Bank at the end of 24. We accepted applications to the end of June. We estimate we can rehab 20 homes that are owned by low income homeowners, and we have over 36 applications on hand. We're also looking to partner with a large foundation to possibly secure programmatic funding to be able to scale our housing development and not be so tied to state funding sources. So we're excited about some of those potentials. And she truly does need a deputy director. And I'm concerned about just succession planning. She has 30+ years of housing development experience, and we want to be able to pass all that knowledge forward. She keeps reminding us she will be done in about 3 or 4 or 5 years, but we all say that too. So childcare deserts, we will continue to support work in those areas. Really championing continued investment in quality of life. The Pembina Gorge State Park will come online next year. It's under construction right now. In workforce, we'll continue our efforts there. However, this may be hampered and limited by the amount of local match we can have. I'm making the case that we need lower match requirements for rural regions because we just simply don't have the match. We've been leaning on the 3 JDAs in the region to provide the match for the RWIP programs for our Real Good initiative. And it's been 75% grant, but when you get into a couple $100,000, that becomes a bigger number for the JDAs to have to meet. Let's see, under regional programs, this is where we've been focusing quite a bit of effort with the regional councils. Right now, we're working with a private consultant to launch a Region 4 Brownfields program. Brownfields is an EPA program where you can assess vacant buildings for any contaminants or any issues. So we are creating an inventory of vacant buildings that may have hazardous issues. And if we are awarded, we would be able to identify, inventory, assess those buildings and make a plan for those. In some cases, it might be demolition on the backside, or it could be a redevelopment opportunity, possibly for housing. I'll skip over a few of these things. Let me know if there's anything that grabs your eye or interest.
I know you're probably crunched for time as well. Notably, the state health department, state health and human services has issued an RFP for redevelopment master plan for the life skills and transition center campus for any vacant or underutilized space. That's very exciting. We are a data hub, I'm gonna call it. We're the only crew that has a PhD on their staff that can be our data wizard in the backdrop. So Kendra, Dr. Kendra brings us great intelligence, and our entire team leans on her for that. I do have the next page is focused on the incubator, so I'll leave that for next. And then rural advocacy. This year, we really took a deep dive legislatively in creating a rural voice, not only for our region, but I led a statewide team of all 8 regional councils, and I think we're moving the needle on that wave. The current commissioner of commerce took the seat in the end of December, early January. And one of their top 5 goals is rural development, and I heard him quote recently, we can't just have 6 cities in North Dakota, we need a few more. So we're pretty excited about that. Any questions on what we have moving forward? Oh,
I do have one question on it says secure programmatic funding to scale housing development. Could you just expand on that a little bit?
I don't want to give away all our secrets. But we have been working with a foundation that has programmatic development in North Dakota for a pretty significant investment.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll hear more.
Okay.
We just submitted a draft outline of our request last Thursday,
Okay.
so we're getting there, but we've worked on establishing a relationship the last couple of years. Any other questions on our work plan? I don't think so. On the next page, I just wanted to address the incubator, because I know we've been talking about it for a while, and people are probably wondering what the heck. So why are we even doing this? Incubators are quite common in our larger cities and all over the country. It's unique and rare for it to be in a rural community. So this was an opportunity that came out of COVID funding and ARPA funding. It was kind of one of those once in a generation opportunities. And so we did research, we did public surveys, we held focus groups, got community support. We also identified a strong need to focus on food. And as we had another restaurant close in Grafton, we know that there is a strong need for food, not just regular food, but healthy foods. Our options in our rural community are not honestly very healthy, generally speaking, and lack of availability. And a lot of folks are just eating off of the convenience store shelves. And so we want to shift that dynamic. But what I really want everybody to be aware is our goal with this program is not, it is a regional center. We will try like heck to regionalize our programming through technology and outreach. We contract for all three of the other JDAs and have strong relationships all over the place. So it will be our goal to not only use this incubator in Grafton, but help fill vacant buildings in all of our communities throughout the region. The major components, just as a reminder, are it's a 10,000 square foot building. It will include a shared use commercial kitchen, which is the major barrier for any food businesses is the investment in a kitchen. So we will be able to build this kitchen and lease it at an affordable rate for newcomers and starting and emerging entrepreneurs. A large conference space, we've been asked over and over, there's really no conference space available in the area, as well as our own meetings, rental offices and co-work space, rental retail spaces, and we'll have partner programs that will come in and have regular office hours. We will also relocate to the space as well as the Walsh County JDA. We have more staff today externally and remotely than we do in the office. So we'll see where our staffing levels are, but the rest of the building will be rentable space and gathering space. The timeline for the project, we did this project twice in 2023 without success. And I really wanted to stress that that was kind of a Debbie Downer moment to fail twice in 2 bidding rounds. And you just kind of, I always say the stars have to align, like the stars weren't aligned. And I think we were competing against ARPA money and huge state money investments in Grand Forks and Fargo. So we got very little interest in our project. It was not big enough to attract the builders. I'm really happy to say we switched to a different methodology of the construction manager at risk at the end of 24. And in April, we received 7 proposals from Fargo to Grand Forks to other rural areas in the region. And we have interviewed our top selection and made a selection recommendation, which the EDA is actually working on as we speak. We hope to have a launch meeting this Thursday to review, get our construction team, our architect, our construction manager, and our construction team all to the table and launch this project. So throughout the summer, we'll be reviewing design and doing bidding in the fall. And we expect construction to be through the spring of next year. The economic impact from a facility like this is, hopeful increases in property and sales tax, job creation, filling vacant buildings all over the region, visitor traffic, and community and social impact. There are proven successes in our region with Wool Road. We recently hired Brenda Bauman to help with project management of this project. And Brenda led some similar efforts in Wool Road a few years ago. In the first year, they had almost 30 new clients, new business clients, and within 2 years, there were 7 new businesses, including the coffee shop, 65-room hotel, a brewery, boutique retailers, and a folk school. And just a few weeks ago, our staff had a day-long retreat at the Hive in Grand Forks, which was a renovation of the former Grand Forks Herald building downtown. The EDA also funded that. It's a UES or drone focused and tech focused business incubator. And they're full, they're very immediate success. And so we're really anxious to partner with them and see how can we really leverage the Grand Sky and this entrepreneurial ecosystem around UAS that's booming right within our region. And so how can we leverage those opportunities and build on the strengths that they've been growing? So I included the project budget and the funding sources we have currently for construction. And then the last few pages again were just the impacts from the last 5 years, but I did do an ROI calculation. I added up all of the investments the counties have made in our office and within the JDAs that have contracted under us. And for every dollar the counties have invested in our office, we've brought home $15.43. So we hope that you see us as a strong investment in the region and any questions.
Okay, does anyone have questions for Don? It's a lot of information, good information, thank you.
And I spit out my head.
Yeah. Do you remember what we gave last year?
3% less than that number.
Okay, oh, it's 3% increase, okay. Okay, well, hearing no questions, thank you very much, Don, and thank you for coming up early. Yeah.
Would it be possible to know when you're gonna be discussing the survey?
I'm not sure if we know.
When you know?
Next meeting will be the 22nd, and then after that, we'll have to get all the numbers put together, so probably won't be till what,
Thank you.
August?
Yeah,
Cause it'll take that long to get all the numbers together.
Well, probably about maybe the second week in August or.
And yeah, it relies on yours, and you got other stuff.
And would be ideally like to know those sooner than later, cause that affects me too in terms of scheduling. So just like we scheduled these, I'd like to, so then it would be, sooner than later that we schedule those dates.
sure. I guess you could always call up and ask Christina, maybe later on, when they get scheduled, but August most likely sometime.
I also want to acknowledge Amy for serving on our board. She's our current president and we appreciate her strong leadership, so.
Thank you. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have the JDA, Stacy, come on up.
And we have Julie online.
Julie, okay.
Virtually,
Okay.
and then well, other JD members are coming in here too.
Okay.
Okay, you do have hard copies of, the information I brought some with in case anybody wanted. Sometimes it's easier to have a hard copy if they come on, do you want one?
Yeah, I printed it.
Okay,
Oh, you have me here.
Yeah, there.
Oh, they here, okay.
So there's a cover letter and then the budget worksheet. Here goes. Yeah. Well, yeah, here it goes.
There we go.
Okay, everybody good, ready to go? Okay, go ahead and start, and welcome to everyone. We have some board members here, thank you for coming.
Yeah, so online, I believe is Julie Gavel, she's the chair of the JDA, she's at our student conference, so she's joining us remotely. And then Dennis and Terry, Dennis is the vice chair of the JDA and Terry's been on the board for a very long time and wanted to come and be part of the process today, so. And then obviously Paul and Amy serve as the commissioners on the bid too, so.
I just wanna make sure, Julie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks for setting this up so I could participate. Now I can't hear you.
You can't hear us now?
Okay,
Now, can you hear us?
yes, now I can hear you, Christy.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah,
Like a commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the cover letter here?
Okay.
So, and I wanted to note that the JDA reviewed the amended 25 budget and then the projected 26 budget at its meeting in June, so it was approved by them at that time. The request for the 26 budget, and likely for the foreseeable future is the maximum allowed by Central Code, which is 4 mils, which is what the JDA is receiving now. In drafting the budget, we use an estimated mill levy value of 69,000 per mill, but we know that exact value will be determined later this year and could likely change. So, you know, as noted in the letter, and as you know, the JDA's role is to foster economic growth and prosperity for businesses and people, and how this is done continues to evolve. The JDA has worked hard to build a board of directors that understand their role and their importance in and how can-do attitude that we are stronger together. That belief was recently affirmed in their adoption of the mission and vision statements that they did last fall. And how this is done includes utilizing resources, staff time, volunteer, JDA board member time and funds, which have the JDA fund, which have leveraged literally millions of other dollars. So I was here last month and reviewed the annual report with you, which, you know, I'll talk a little bit about some of those things. But that also illustrates some specific examples. Because as you know, projects that JDA has been working on and supporting in various ways include various growth. And opportunities, which is outlined there at the bottom of that cover letter at the bottom of the first page. So business retention and attraction, employee retention and attraction, retention and assisting business startups and entrepreneurs, supporting housing studies and development, childcare, offering work-based learning and career exploration opportunities for our youth, which is our low-hanging fruit, management of the Career Village program, and many other things in between. And those efforts of the JDA have provided an opportunity for the board to be an important partner on recent generational projects, which includes the incubator project that Don just talked about, that have the potential for profound impact, as well as the Child Care Center project and North Valley's expansion project. As we previously discussed, those opportunities have also signal a parallel decrease in the JDA's reserves, but we're grateful those reserves were available so that the JDA could partner on these important projects. I also wanted to note that we've been working on some additional potential revenue sources and best fiscal practices. Those are noted on the second page of that cover letter. First is working with the Bank of North Dakota, about potentially clawing back lump sum payments that were previously made by the JDA. So for, the Bank of North Dakota Flex Based Program requires a community match, and the JDA previously was making lump sum payments rather than annual payments, basically that limited the amount of cash on hand. So we were asked if we could claw back some of those funds that were previously done in lump sum. They were absolutely open to the idea, that just wasn't able to accommodate it. But going forward, we are no longer doing that. We're making annual payments to increase the available cash on hand. Second, we revised the JDA's loan documents. Previously, when a borrower was paying ahead of their Bank of North Dakota loan, which is great, they're fantastic, they're doing well. When they were done with that, it didn't automatically trigger when they were repaying the JDA, so we've revised that now going forward, where when borrowers, if they're paying ahead, they're also paying ahead on the JDA loan as well, which that potentially will result in some additional revenues even this year or in 26, or potentially both. We've also been researching some alternatives to fund the required community share on the flex space program, community share. That is not within the JDA's budget, so we're hopeful we'll have some more information on that soon. Lastly, we've been talking about, prudent fiscal management, creating a sustainable reserve, and potentially setting up goals on how to get there, but obviously time to rebuild those reserves is part of that equation, but so too is support from the county commission doing so, since you determine as far as how many mills that are allocated to the JDA. So as I said, the JDA is requesting 4 mills for 26, and I think it's fair to say that that would be the request for the foreseeable future beyond 26 as well. Because there's a lot of great things, projects, initiatives that are happening in Walsh County, growth, and we don't expect that to change. Like, we expect that trajectory to continue, which we want it to. The last page of the cover letter, there is a possibility that, but basically we're projecting that the JDA expects to spend more in 25 than it will receive revenue. The same is expected for 26, however, we recognize there are potentially some factors that would increase revenue that we just went through for 25 and 26. So, any questions on that before we move forward to the budget worksheet? Which that, on this, the budget worksheet. So, this includes basically the budget worksheet, and then the second two has like further explanations of some of the budget line items, which I'm gonna go through with you here. So we'll start with the revenues at the top of the budget worksheet. So as I mentioned, we're using 4 mills as far as the 26 budget at the value of 69,000 per mill. Also included in the revenues is the loan repayments for borrowers. This is the actual amount that we know of as of today. But as I just mentioned, it could be increased in 25 and or 26 if some of these borrowers are paying ahead. The JDA is a very active loan portfolio. There it is, 41 currently active loans. So those are 41 businesses that have been listed by the JDA. The rental income, you'll note on 2025's amended budget for the child care center. That really is a wash with the expenses, and it's not in 2020, noted in 2026 budget, because we expect to be transferring the ownership of that building to the nonprofit in the next couple of months. So that's why we haven't put it in the 2026 budget. And you'll see there is $12,000 in expenses below, again, it's just a wash. The projected total income is very similar between 2025 and 2026, but as I noted, there's potential opportunities where these numbers could increase beyond those current projections. So the total revenue projected right now for 2026 is 287,000, basically 800. Any questions on the revenues? Then getting into the expenses, it's kind of broken down into 2 sections there, operating and then the projects and programs. So, under the operating, there's really only two items included there, which is the contract with the regional council for staff and the JDA's portion of the county audit. The amount of the 26 contract for professional staff includes a 3% increase. And the current contract with the regional council expires at the end of 26. This contract includes salary benefits for myself as a full-time director, as well as a quarter to a third of Lori Easton's time as a fiscal manager. It also includes all those other things noted there, you know, accounting, liability insurance, office supplies, basically that comes part of having an office, computer, postage, etc. Contracting with the regional council also leverages the entire regional council team, which Don touched on. There isn't a profit margin built into this contract. It is at cost. If you have specific questions related to the contract, I'm sure Dawn can answer them. As she's the one who negotiated the contract with the JV board. Is there any questions on that part? Now we can move down to the projects and programs section. Again, these are further explained on that second page, but I'll try to go through them pretty quickly. So the grants and feasibility studies were budgeting $5,000 for 2026. You'll note the actual spent in 2024 was 10,000, and that was to go towards a regional housing study, which Dawn touched on here and all of the work that's come from that. So that study basically helped launch, in a way, the Spark Build program, which is the direct result of that to Walsh County is we've had 4 cities who've raised their hand and said we want to participate. Those housing bills are increasing property tax revenue, as well as addressing the appraisal gap that we have, an issue that's really created a stagnation in housing building in our rural area for decades. The interest buy downs, the 2025 amount and the 2026 amount reflects the actual plus an additional 12,000 in new projects each year. That's historically, that seems to be the amount that are added each year in new projects. So we're using that amount for the 26 budget. As a reminder, the impact that this has, and Dawn touched on this a little bit too. I talked about this when we talked about the 24 and report. So in 2024, the JDA supported 4 projects on flex-based buy down. The JDA portion was about $48,000, but it resulted in 3.1 plus investments by our businesses. So the JDA portion isn't always necessarily a significant number, but it is a catalyst to helping these projects happen. The next line items are loan and loan write-offs. We zero those out because historically the JDA has not done any direct loan. I think there was one out of those 41 loans that is a direct loan. Next is the North Valley capital project. That's zeroed out for 25 and 26 because that commitment was met in 2024. The North Valley Work-Based Learning Program, that's what WBL stands for. That's a commitment used to help pay the stipend to employers who participate in the summer internship program. I recently talked to Mike Hansen and they have about 90 students, 90, participating in the summer internship program this year, which is fantastic. And there are several other partner organizations in Walsh County, specifically Grafton and Park Rivers Economic Development, that are also contributing to that. The current JDA commitment for that is through 2027. The next one is the 532 Hill Business Incubator. This is number 5 if you're following along on the explanation sheet. The total commitment that JDA made in that for that project was in 2022 was $150,000, which was split into 2 years in 2024. As Don mentioned, the project's now moving forward. But if you look at the end balance for the JDA, if the full $150,000 commitment were requested today, based on all these other numbers and all of them were still came to fruition, that the JD would not have the funds to be able to support that, which is why it's noted as in that red box for the 2026 budget. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of things at play here that may change that. Obviously, considerations coming later this year will include, well, what funds are actually needed as the project moves forward, what funds the JDA has available, if the commitment would potentially adversely affect the federal award for that project, and there may be other options for where the other 75,000 or a portion of it can come from, so. That's why it's been left in the budget, the JDA wanted to leave it in the budget, and just. Noted as it's a red box essentially, that it's still there. The childcare architect, that is no longer valid, so that was done in 2024. And then, the childcare. Building expenses, again, this is related to the building, which we don't, we didn't budget for 26 because it's no longer gonna be a JDA. Owned building in a couple months here. The childcare center line of credit payments is next, and that's, which is number 7, if you're following along on the explanation sheet. This was budgeted to pay back the loan to the city of Grafton for the childcare project. We secured enough funds, donations really, in 2025 to cover that first payment. Which is due January 1st of 26, so that's why you don't see the $30,000 in the 25 budget. But some good news, actually some really great news, is as of late last week, we learned we'll be awarded an enhanced rural childcare grant from the state. And that's going to take care of the remaining balance that we owe on that project, so we will be done, as far as funding needed for that project, so that will eliminate the need, for that $30,000 payment you see on the projected 2026. So that payment will no longer be needed, nor any subsequent payments, they will all be taken care of as far as that loan in the city of Grafton. So that would increase the projected year-end balance for 26 to roughly $75,000. The next line item is $3,000 in the budget for the marketplace for kids. This is the JD's annual contribution for the program, which encourages entrepreneurship and self-employment opportunities. The next line item is the Real Good Northeast North Dakota, which is number 8 on the explanation sheet if you're following along there. That's our people attraction initiative for our region, as requested by our employers. I mentioned that when I reviewed the annual report. The JDA committed $32,000 in 24 and 25 as grant match. That's why it's not included in the 26 budget. And then the next one is the Career Builders program. This is the program that our employers are using and leveraging the state scholarship and loan repayment programs for employee recruitment and retention. As I mentioned, when reviewing the annual report, Walsh County is number 4 in the state as far as job placements at 40. Behind only our urban counties as far as usage of that program, which is fantastic. The $40,000 that the JDA contributes annually matches contributions from Grafton and Park River. The current commitments through 2026. But it's important to note that those funds are only collected if they're needed, and as of July 8th, the funds for 25 have not been needed. And so of course this could change, but it's possible and potentially even likely that the $40,000 in 25 and 26, like the total of those will not be needed. So that would increase the year-end balance of one of those years or potentially both. As a reminder, these funds are used to reduce the amount the employer pays to participate in the program. Which has assisted some of our smaller businesses to be able to participate, and also some other employers to be able to offer the opportunity to more than one employee. We have some that are offering it to multiple employees. For the future of that, the Park River and Grafton EDCs, as well as the JDA, were asked to extend their commitment into 2027 because it's those payments are made over 3 years, and so now we have applicants that are potentially going to be in the program into 2027. The JDA did table that request, but I do think a smaller contribution amount from the JDA will be considered for 2027 and beyond. That is yet to be determined. And then the last item, which really is only in the green column for 2025's amended budget, is to hire a consultant to assist the JDA with potential rebranding. This is something we talked about quite a bit after they did the mission and vision planning. It's basically a placeholder number if the board decides to move ahead with doing that. But as I mentioned, we also know there's opportunities for those year balances numbers to increase, including the value of a mill could be more. Depends on what your tax director does. How good he is at his job. Loan payments for borrowers, starting earlier than anticipated. Potential opportunities for the community match for flex-based programs for projects not coming on JDA's budget. the funding gap being secured for the childcare centers, we don't have loan payments to the draft anymore. The cribbler's money is only requested if needed and may not be in 25 or 26 or a combination of, and then considering it a smaller annual contribution going forward for 2027 and beyond, so. If you're still with me after all that in an afternoon or listening to people talk about it, fine, so. But regarding the factors, the JDA is aware that fulfilling all or a significant portion of that commitment to the 532 Hill Incubator project isn't impossible. But that commitment, in addition to supporting all the important projects and initiatives, is that the JDA is doing, will continue to do is, while slowly rebuilding a reserve is gonna take time, and but yet it's vitally important. And this is only possible with diligence and, a positive relationship with you all, as far as support of the JDA, so. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them, or if anyone else has anything they want to offer.
Any questions? Dennis, Terry, did you have anything you wanted to visit about?
Just the JDA, I'm proud to be on board and it does wonderful things. The 3 counties, I believe, and yeah. We're ready to hopefully get more stuff done.
And I'd like to add also to that, we are dependent on these formulas, it's such a primary source of income. And we hope that you feel as we do, that we take our job seriously with the board, and we screen people before they come to us with requests. I think the record is pretty good about the repayment, the commitments that they make to us, they honor. In return, the idea is to help them get on their feet in the early parts of a business when capital is short and bills are plenteous sometimes. And also, I just want to say how much we appreciate our staff. Because Stacy just alluded to a moment ago, but without having the data and the facts ready, sometimes the phone rings. And it's an unknown source that maybe says, we heard you got a project, we have some money left over in our fiscal year, did you use it? And if you have your numbers together and you can respond, usually you get 24, 48 hours. We're able to deal ourselves with some of those things. It was the habit that I got into when I was at the highway department. We always try to have an extra bridge on the shelf because we want some of that. Bismarck would call and say another county was supposed to build a bridge, but they didn't have the funds. And so we tried to allow for that. And occasionally, I think of 3 or 4 bridges that we received just because we were ready. And as I sit on this board, we're ready with our staff. If us board members think that we're grant writers and that we have the time to do it, we don't have the expertise or the time. And I'm on the township board and part of the time keeping track of my own records and so on. But these ladies do a good job for us, and I think that we try to really use the dollars that you give us, and really hope this 4 mills come our way again.
Thank you, and thanks for all you guys do on the board. Appreciate it.
Madam Chair, I mean, I think I say this most every year, but I own a business in Grafton. I've been open 5 years now. I wouldn't be open if it wasn't for the Bank of North Dakota and Flex, because the amount of startup costs, whether it's buying a building, renting, whatever it comes down to, is a lot. And depending on the business that you're going into, to do it right, you have to kind of start in a realm of being able to check all the boxes. I wasn't gonna open a space that was from the 1970s. I needed to make a space ready for what I was planning to do. And when I look back at payback on loans, when I'm done with the BND loan payment, the JDA will be right there, because it's something that I'm set up for now to be able to but it gives that leg to say, we can help you start to get through. And Dennis is right, we know, they interview, we're aware, we have multiple members from many communities around the county that we're able to support the right people to produce businesses that we hope will have lasting effects economically, just young people being able to entrepreneurially start their dreams. that matters, like, that's why this work matters, so.
I just wanna add that, I've only been on the JDA board for a short time, but the board is engaged, they're well-rounded. They're from all over the county, they have different backgrounds, everybody is well-engaged and committed, and I'm I've been really impressed with that part of it. They really, everybody really seems to be engaged and involved and really cares about the work that they're doing.
You don't mind attending the meetings, right?
There's worse things. I can't think of one right now.
Well, if nobody else has questions, I guess that's it. Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for being on Zoom. Did you have anything, Julie? I'm sorry, I kind of forgot you were there to tell you the truth.
Oh, well, I think Amy and Paul and Terry and Dennis said everything I would have said, but it's a joy to be the chair of this board, knowing that we're helping so many people in the county get on their feet and get started in business. And we all know that business is what keeps our rural communities alive and well. And we just have to be working together to continue those efforts when they come up, and we have to have the funding to be able to do it. So we really stress that we would appreciate what we're asking for in the 4 mills. I think we do good work. You can see that all over the county, and it's widespread. So, and I think Stacy does a wonderful job of getting engaged with people at the very beginning, and offers a lot of advice that people aren't aware of. And she has a vast knowledge of the programs that are out there and the resources available. And I just think she's doing a great job for us as our director. I worked as a chair under 2 other directors, and I have to say Stacy is top notch. So thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Hey, you bet. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you all. Appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
have a good day.
I'm
I
going to
know
go
we gotta
for it.
run, right? Okay, all right.
Another meeting.
Do we need to schedule another into August, like it's set a date or a placeholder, maybe have our next budget meeting?
We adjourn and then talk about these.
Sure,
Yeah. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, meeting adjourned.